Hey everybody, Poker Dad here. So today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going over my hands from tonight's session at America's Card Room. So first of all, as you can see, is I finally did purchase Poker Tracker now that I'm playing on America's Card Room. And I was just really thinking that I'd rather not post my sessions of America's Card Room on YouTube just because the player pool there is fairly small, and I just would rather those rather my live ACR sessions not be posted on YouTube. So what I figured I could do instead, and it might be a little more interesting, is to take my hands from the session I went to Showdown, where I voluntarily put money into the pot, and just go over those hands and show that the hands that I played from that session. So when I play global poker, um, I won't mind posting videos of my gameplay because their player pool is so big. I'm not really too worried about it, and most of the players over there, I don't really expect them to be going onto YouTube and looking at other people's videos. And not to say that America's Card Room people are going to be looking at my videos, but I just prefer to not post those videos on on YouTube. And in fact, what I'll be doing here, as you can see with Poker Tracker, is I am also masking the names of the people on ACR. So anyway, so all these hands I'm going to be showing, they all went to Showdown, and none of these were pots that that where I was in the big blind and just checked. So even though there wasn't not many of those situations anyway that actually happened on ACR. So anyway, here I have Queen 10 from the I'm here in the cutoff. So I bump up to 15 cents and we get a call from the small blind. So here in this situation, we get a check, and I decide actually just to throw out a C bet here with a backdoor flush draw and a potential backdoor straight draw as well. And my opponent does call me. And here a 3 comes out. He checks into me again, and this time now I check behind with not much really going on here. And a 5 comes out. So he checks, and I decide to actually bluff him. And I will tell you in a second why this was actually a bad bluff. He does call me, and he takes it down with a pair of jacks. And the reason why this is a bad bluff, I will show you, is because I have a note here that says that my opponent barrels but doesn't do well at Showdown. Hard to bluff at Showdown and calls down 3 streets light. So this is good to know for when I play this opponent later on. The fact that I know he is going to call me down light, but in here a bluff ends up, of course, being a bad idea because, as you can see, there's a flush on the board, and I bet the flush, and he called it with just a pair of aces. So there you go. Lesson learned on him, and I have the notes, so we can move forward. All right, here we go with Ace King in the small blind, and of course I bump it up from the small blind, and my opponent calls. And here we get Queen 7-5. So backdoor straight draw, but I decide to check out of position, and my opponent checks as well. And the 8 comes in, and that doesn't help my hand at all. Right now my hand's pretty dead, so I check, and he checks back. And a queen comes out here, and I check, and he checks back, and he has a 7 to take the win. Not much really I could do in that hand. And here I have Queen Jack offsuit from the small blind, which I, of course, raise it up, and I get a call from the big blind. And here again, not much happening. 8, 8, 10, 8. I do have a straight draw here if I get a 9. Paired board as well. Out of position, I check it. My opponent checks back. And now we get a third 8 on the board, which makes things really interesting. So obviously, I just have to hope that my opponent, I don't think my opponent has an 8 here. I don't think he has a 10 either. So I'm just going to hope that he doesn't have an ace or a king. And of course, I'm going to check it here again. He checks back. So, this is going to be an interesting hand to get the Showdown. At Showdown, I do get my 9, so I do have a straight. But it's a pretty crazy board here because you do have a flush out there, and you do have potential full house. So I check again, even with the straight. I mean, there's so much stuff here that can beat me. I don't ever think he's going to call me with worse at this point. And he checks back, and I take it down with the straight. Here we have Ace 2 suited from the cutoff, which I raise it up. and I get a call from the big blind. Here I have a backdoor nut flush draw. Plus we also have that's all we have is a backdoor nut flush draw. He checks it to me, and I check back with the backdoor nut flush draw. And now we get a king that comes out. Doesn't help me at all. Kind of ruins my chances of maybe even having a hand here. So of course I'm going to check back again. And 1 second, I just got you can't see it on the screen, but I just got some kind of notification I got to knock off. Okay. And again, he checks, and I check, and he actually takes it down with a pair 3. So not a very interesting hand. Sorry about that. I didn't actually filter these to see which ones had action. So some of them might be like that here. Here I have King 8 offsuit from the big blind. We get a call. I mean, from the button, and we get a call from the big blind. So here I have middle pair. He checks to me, and I decide to check back with just middle pair. And now a second queen comes out. Once again, he checks to me, and again I check back with an 8. I could have definitely bet here, but I didn't really see any kind of advantage to betting here in this spot. He checks again, and I decide just to check back, and I take it down with a pair of 8s. I could have bet on the turn, and but then if he raises me there, I'm in a really tough spot, and I've kind of wasted money there. So no reason for me just not to call down. I could have definitely bet the turn, but something I'll have to look into. So here the button raises it up to 15 cents, and I call in the big blind with Queen 9 offsuit. And here again I get middle pair. So I'm of course going to check it off out of position, and my opponent checks too. So I'm not worried about him having jack now at this point. And now a second jack actually comes out. So I'm not worried about jack. I check, and he checks again. If he would have bet here, I definitely would have called. But he didn't. So, and here now we get a 4 again. I check, and he checks, and I take it down with 9s as I fully expected to. Again, not going to bet there because if I bet, he's never going to call with anything worse. So, but yet if I check, he could he might try and bluff me, or maybe he tries and bets a 4 or 5. So that's why I don't bet there. Definitely not going to lead out there. Okay, so with the jacks here, I raised up 15 cents from the middle position, and we get a call from the button, and we get a call from the big blind. So we have 3 ways on this one, and 3, 6, 4. So could be a decent flop for one of these two. But with top pair at this point, I'm going to protect my jacks here in a multi-way pot, and I bet half pot here, and we get a call from the button, and the big blind folds out. And now we get a king. So with the king, and now I am playing this hand completely out of position. I check, and my opponent gives a strange bet here of 25 cents into 91 cents, giving me 18% pot odds. So interesting spot here. I obviously decide to just call it. And now we get another 6. So this was definitely an interesting spot here. Of course, I check it again. And again, he bets really small, giving me 18% pot odds to call. I mean, I was definitely concerned he had a 6 here because he's betting when he bet into me when he called the flop, I should say, when he called my flop bet. I he could absolutely have a 6 here and have 3 6s. And if he had bet much bigger, I definitely would have folded here. But with his small bet, he could have also easily had a 4 or a 3, and he can't put me on jacks. So I do call his bet here, and I took it down. He had 9s. So that was there you go. He called with 9s. His bet on the turn when I checked to him, I don't know if that was the best bet for him, but he bet it. And obviously it worked out well for me with Jackson. He just bet into me small with pair of 9s. But it definitely would have been interesting if he would have bet bigger there on the river. I might have had to think he could possibly have a 6. So his betting kept me in that hand, and I took it down. So here, King Queen from the middle position in this hand because we're 5-handed, and I get a call from the big blind, King Queen. So this board doesn't really connect too well with me. He checks, I check back, Now I do get top pair here with a decent kicker. My opponent bets 23 cents into me, and I decide to just call it. I could have raised it, but if I had ace king, I definitely would have raised it. But king queen, I decided to just call it and see if I could just get him to bet a worse hand than me. If I raise it, he's I'm not going to get any more value out of this hand. Jack comes in and he checks to me, and I just decide to check back with a flush draw being on the board. And again, for the same reasons, I don't really think I'm going to get him to call anything worse than a king here anyway, unless maybe you're just a worse king. And he had 9-6, so um, he was just he had an open ended. All right, so he had an open ended straight draw on the turn. So I guess I don't hate it for him. But obviously, if I would have bet there, he would have folded his 9-6 and he would have raised his flush. So what again? What's the point of me betting there on the river? I'll be happy to take it down and take down whatever I can at that point because betting there, he's never going to call me with worse than a pair of kings. Here I have ace jack from the under the gun. I get a call from the small blind. Well, I get a call from both blinds, which is great actually. And here I have a gut shot, and I also have a backdoor nut flush draw. So I like this here. Check, check, and I check back here with the backdoor nut flush draw. I could have definitely bet, but I decided to check here. And again, we get checks all around, and I hit an ace on the river, and we get a 30 cent bet in there from the small blind. So of course we can think that he could have an ace. I mean, could he have Jack 10? Sure, but I mean the 30 cent bet, I'm not really too worried about that. And of course, with top pair, I'm gonna call it. And he took it down with oh, we split the pot. All right, we split the pot. So there you go. He didn't take it down. We just split the pot. So here we have 8-7 suited from middle position under the gun raises. We decide to call. The button calls as well. And here we have king king 2, and of course we're just going to check through here. And here I pair the board. Again, just going to check through here in a multi-weight pot with a middling pair. Now I get two pair, but that doesn't matter, of course, because the kings are on the board. Excuse me. So we get a check. I'm going to check through again. Everybody checks, and I just take down the pot. Here we have Jack Queen suited. I'm in the cutoff. I raise it up, and we get a call from the big blind. So a lot of getting a lot of different calls from the blinds. But although this whole session, I was able to get the blinds to fold a ton. I made a lot of money off of just people folding pre-flop. But that's how it is at ACR, I think. So here I have a gut shot. Need a 9 for the straight, and I do decide to bet here with the gut shot in position, and my opponent calls. And so here we have a 6, which doesn't really do much here. So what do we got? Yeah, I mean, it's just still the hand is still exactly the same, a gut shot. He checks to me. I decide to check back now this time. I could have definitely bet again, but I don't know. This is the guy. I said he's pot on it. This guy, I say he's pot honest, so he only really bets if he has it. So I decide to just, obviously I decided to just check back there. I could have definitely bet, and double barreled there. Now the jack comes out, and I decide to check back because again I don't really expect him to call me with worse than jacks in this spot, especially the way the hand has been played, and I take it down. And here I get a raise from the small blind with Jack 8 offsuit. I call from the big blind. So what do we got going on here? Here we have a nothing really. So he checks and I check back. And now we have an ace out here. Still really nothing doing. Check, check. And a 10 comes out. Check, check. And he takes it down with a pair of sixes. Nothing really happening in that hand right there. King Queen. So far I've been getting like a ton of King Queens on the ACR. It's been very strange actually. So here I check it out of position with a pair of queens, and my opponent bets into me here, and I decide to raise him with what I feel could probably be the best hand right now. I mean, sure, he definitely have a six here, but I'm definitely gonna just do a check raise on this spot here with what I think is probably the best hand at this current time. He does decide to call it, which makes things quite interesting. I check into him again, and now he checks back. So he's obviously afraid of a flush here. I mean, he's obviously afraid of a flush here. I don't think he has a six. He could have. I mean, he could have like something like ace queen or king queen as well, like myself. Nine comes out. He check. I check. He bets into me, and I decide to just call him with my queen. His bet wasn't too big. It was 24% pot odds, so not a big bet. Easy call here with my queen, and he took it down with the six. So he ended up having the six, and I guess he felt confident. He definitely felt confident about that. Um, and I heard something today, and this is actually quite interesting. Um, I'm actually going to just go back real quick. So this is interesting. I'm gonna show you something. Check. He bets, right, and he calls my raise. So that's one thing I should have considered. He called my raise. So he called my raise. I think I should have considered this at the time. He called my raise with a six. He would call my raise with a six or with a queen, but more likely a six, right? That he would call it with, unless he had ace queen, right? I don't think he's. I mean, or enough flush. Enough flush is possible too. Now we think about it, right? So he could have called with enough flush. He could have called with any six, and he could have called with maybe ace queen, maybe queen queen. Something I should have thought about there. Check, 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 bet. So one thing I heard today, and I took a note of this, and this is something that happened here in the hand, and I didn't even think about it. When somebody bets, then checks, then bets, it usually it usually means strength. Check bet, bet check bet. So something to keep in mind. Bet check bet usually does mean strength, and this is just a perfect example. He had strength. He had three sixes. He read that I didn't. I probably read that I did not have a flush, and he wasn't really too worried about it. So there you go. Here I have pocket sixes from under the gun. I raise it up. I mean, not pocket sixes. I mean 6-5 suited. I raise it up from under the gun, and I'm sitting here with bottom pair. So I actually decided to bet this here. Kind of a reckless c bet. Looking at my opponent's stats right now, he doesn't fold a c bet, but it's only 93 hands. Kind of a reckless c bet here. He calls it. I don't know if I really agree with that. That was probably a bad bet, I think. Now 10 comes out, and I decide to actually double barrel bluff on this board. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even remember what happens on this hand, but interesting. And he calls it, and an ace comes out. So obviously we know this doesn't end well. Yeah, I mean, and the ace king. Yeah, this was definitely one of probably my worst played hands of the evening. I'm not really sure what the hell I was thinking here. That just made no sense. Bad hand. Definitely a bad hand. Here I call 10-9 from the big blind, from the button with three-handed right now. Middle pair, meh kicker. Kind of almost like a straight draw too. We have a gut shot as well. So 20-cent bet into me. I call it. I could have raised it, but with the pair already on the board, I decided to call it. Now I have an open-ended straight draw. He checks. I mean, I check. He checks, and now I have a straight. So I check. He bets into me, and I decided to just call it. I could have definitely raised it. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's see, 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, Jack 9 would have been a better straight. So maybe I should have raised him here. I think I could have definitely raised him here. And he had ace 3. So I mean, if I raised him, obviously he would have folded. So I guess it really doesn't matter too much. Would have been the same results. All right. Next up here, we get a raise from the cutoff, and I call Jack 10 in the big blind. And let's see, right here we have a backdoor straight forward, backdoor straight draw, um, and we have a backdoor flush draw. I check it, my opponent checks back, and now we have the gut shot here, so we need a queen for a straight. Check, check, and two aces come out, and check, check, and my opponent has a queen. So nothing much happening there in that hand. King 10 offsuit here from middle position, and here I have an open-ended straight draw here. So check comes in. I decide to bet here. I bet 2/3 pot. Bet 2/3 pot into him. Is that 2/3? Yeah, 2/3 pot into him, and he does call me. And now I pair up the board. So I have top pair. I have an open-ended straight draw. Definitely a good spot for me. I throw out another bet, and he calls it. And now the flush draw comes out on the board. And this is a similar situation that we've been seeing here. I decide to check back because I just don't think he's going to call me with worse than the king here. And I don't know what he had, but I'm assuming he probably had a queen or a jack, or maybe a draw himself. But I'm probably a queen or a jack. And look at him. This is he's a 35-29, so. King Queen, I feel like I've had King Queen a ton here. So we call it, of course, in the big blinds. And here I don't really have much happening. Backdoor flush draw. So I check, he bets. I decide to actually call here with the backdoor flush draw. I could have definitely raised this as well. I could have definitely raised this on him, but I decided to call it. And now we go check, check again. So, I don't think I don't think he has a 2. Could have an 8, could have a 10. I have him down. I haven't this guy down. He's a recreational player. 5 comes out. I check. He checks, and I actually took it down with my king. So, yeah. There you go. If he would have bet there, I definitely would have folded, but he didn't. He's a recreational player, and there you go. I won with king high. So, here we get 3/4 suited in this small blind, and I raise it up. And this was an interesting hand. Okay, so here I am with bottom pair, but I also do have a backdoor straight draw. So we both check here, and now I have again. I got the pair of fours, which isn't too exciting, but I do have that straight draw. He bets into me. 29% pot odds. I do decide to give it a call, hoping to get a 5. I mean, I think it was fine. And we go check, check, and obviously I don't win this here. He has a pair of 7s. So what did he do? He was betting ace 2. Yeah. I don't know what he's doing here. Yeah. He just bluffed me, and I called it. So, interesting. Anyway, next. Yeah. I don't know. I'm so glad I got Poker Tracker again, by the way, because Poker Tracker is freaking awesome. The things you can do with Poker Tracker is just so great. And hey, I can actually video Poker Tracker too. Here I have Jack 9 suited in the button. And we go 3 ways, and I do have a. So this is an interesting one. I have a middle pair, but I also have a backdoor flush draw. I mean, I have a flush draw, not a backdoor flush draw. So 25-cent bet into 47, and I decided to just call it here with the pair of 9s. I definitely could have raised it, but I decided to just call it because I have a pair of 9s, and my opponent, this guy, folds over there. Now we have 2 pair, and the bet comes in 25 cents. Now with 2 pair, I feel like I probably have the best hand here. Good spot here to throw out a raise, and my opponent does call the raise. And now we get an 8 here. So the 8 is definitely interesting. He checks, and I decide to check this back here because we just got so much happening here. We have a flush draw on the board. We have an 8. Could he be checking? And he has 8s, and that beats me? Absolutely. So I don't really see a reason to bet back here. And, what actually is going to call me that's worse? A pair of aces, maybe. So I don't know what he had because he mucked it, but we took it down. I didn't really see a reason to bet there. Here, king 7, and we get a call. So this is one here. I have 2 pair. I decide to bet with my king. He calls me. He's a recreational player. So we got a flush draw on the board. We got potential full house on the board. He checks. I decide to check back here. I think I could have actually double barreled him here. I think I could have definitely double barreled him here with the flush draw being out there, plus the 2 queens being out there. I definitely could have just double barreled him here in this spot, but I didn't. Now a jack comes out, and I know I'm in probably really big trouble here. I don't have a club. He checks into me. Of course, I'm just going to check back, and he takes it down, and he had a queen. So interesting. If I wonder. I think he's a recreational player. I'm not really sure. I don't have many 126 hands on him. I'm not really sure if he would have folded that flush. He would have thought about it. He would have thought about it if he would have folded a potential flusher. So ace 4. So here I have a backdoor nut flush draw, and I decided to bet it here. I think I should. I don't know if I agree with that. I think I should have checked it. He calls me. Now I do have a nut flush draw, and it goes check check, and now a 3 comes out. Not really much happening here. Check check, and he takes it down with a pair of 8s. Yeah, I think I should have just actually checked the flop. I think that was a mistake. Queen 9. I bet from the small blind. He calls me. And here, just really nothing going on. So we go check, 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 check. And I'm sure just check, check again. And that's it. He takes it down, of course, with a pair of aces. So he just never bets his ace, which I can understand in that spot. He doesn't really have a great ace. Let's see. 7-7 from the big blind. I call. Here I have a second pair. So middle pair. Check, check goes. Check, check. And check, check. And I take it down with 7s. Here I bet in the button with king 7 offsuit. And we get a call from the big blind. So here I have a open-ended straight draw. And he bets into me 15 cents. And I could have raised it. I definitely could have raised it here. I think I should have. I should have raised that. Now we get an ace. So he bets into me 44 cents with the straight. I decide to raise him up, and he shoves all in. I shove all in. We're both all in, and we both had a king. So we both had a straight. So I think if I would have raised, he would. He had king 10. He had a pair of 10s. He would have called. He would have definitely called. So yeah, we both ended up with a straight. So we both paid rake. Good news is I get 27% rake back on America's Card Room. So at least I'll get some of that back at some point, I guess. Here I get queen queen from the small blind, and I get a call. So we have 2 pair, queen queen, check check, and the 7 comes in, and he bets into me, and I decide to just call him with my queens, and I check and he checks, and I just take it down. Here I have 8s from the small blind. So middle pair here. He bets into me. I call with the 8s, and I check, and he checks again on the flush draw, and I check, and he checks, and I take it down with 8s. Okay, so here we get 2 guys going in, betting in. You got the cutoff and the button. I of course 3-bet it with the ace king offsuit. We get a call from the big blind. We get we get a call from the cutoff, and at least one guy folds. It's a pretty big pot here. Unfortunately, the flop just kind of sucks for me, huh? So I check, and everybody checks here. Now we get a pair of 10s. Just not great. Check. All right, so this guy bets 50 cents. That's such a small bet into $1.61. This guy folds. I decide to call it. because I'm thinking at worst, maybe he has. I don't believe he has a 10, so maybe he has an 8 or a 4, and he has two pair now, or he just has another. Maybe he just has another pair, and so I'm calling this bet. With the two overcards, and an ace does come out, so that's a good thing for me. I check into him, hoping for a bet, and I just take it down with my ace. So he was betting with a pair of sevens, and that kind of makes sense there. So I end up taking that pot one street, and end up working out well for me with all those guys calling, and you know getting the ace on the river. So here we get ace 10 in the under the gun. I raise it up. Not the really middle position. We get a call from the button. And I have top pair with a meh kicker. So I check it off to him, and he bets, and I decide to just call it. And eight comes out again. It goes check, check, and goes check, check, and I take it down. Here we get a raise from the middle position. I call from the big blind with 7-5 suited. Middle pair here, backdoor flush draw. My opponent bets into me. I raise him. So I raised him here with the backdoor flush draw. That was really my intention, was to raise him with the backdoor flush draw. Obviously, the pair of fives really, I guess it kind of helps I have a pair of fives, but really the point of this here was to raise him with the backdoor flush draw. He does decide to call, and we hit a 4. So, now obviously I have the flush draw. Check, and he checks back again, and a 4 comes out. So, yeah, okay. So I bet this, and he called it. See, this is a perfect example of why I'm not betting those hands. Now this was a bluff, and it was a bad bluff out of position. I think this would have made sense if I was in position, because if I'm in position and he checks to me and I make this bet, obviously I know I don't have the best hand, and he could definitely fold. But being out of position, I think this is a terrible bluff here. Um, and he calls it, and he called my bluff. And I actually remember this hand well now. Um, he thought about this hand a long time, and eventually called it. And I said to myself afterwards, like, nice, nice catch, because yeah, it was just a terrible bluff. It was a terrible bluff. I could do this bluff when I'm in position, but out of position, I just got to check this off. So that was a bad bluff by me. Here we get tens, so we're four-handed, and we get a call. So not a great flop for me, of course. I check it off, and he checks back. So now at least I'm not worried about an ace at this point. Now we do have a straight draw, so I check. He checks again, and I check, and he checks again, and I take it down with the tens. All right. So here we are three ways. I have Jack 9 suited on this board. Is not really too great. So we just all check around here. Really, again, just now I have an open-ended. So now I have an open-ended straight draw. I do decide to check it. I think in this particular hand, the open-ended straight draw, I definitely could have bet. I think if I bet the turn, I bet you I get folds. I bet you I get folds. Yeah, maybe this guy doesn't fold because he has an 8 and a spade. But I mean, he could have a feel good about it. But this guy's a recreational player, so still, I still think open and straight draw. I probably should have bet bet half pot on the turn. Okay, so under the gun, bets 15 cents, and we have a four-way pot. I have king queen, so I have top pair with a good kicker. Of course, we check it off, and we get a 40-cent bet, and I call it. Ace comes out. Not too crazy about the ace. He checks back though, so now I'm feeling like I probably have the best hand here. And 8 comes out. I check back. He bets into me 45 cents. I decide to call it, and he had a pair of kings. So this was definitely an interesting one. So let's just think about it. He has a pair of kings here. Well, obviously, there's no way for us to know he has a pair of kings, because we can't really hand read that because there was no three betting. Check. So he bets. Yeah, I mean, I guess what is he betting here? He's betting here. Maybe he's betting ace queen. He could be betting ace queen. Obviously, he's betting ace ace, king king, queen queen. He's not betting jack jack. He's not betting. He's not betting any of that stuff. Maybe he's betting a flush draw, but not likely. Um, so yeah, when I think about it now, and now the ace comes out, he checks it because he has kings, and now he's not winning anymore. And now he bets into me. He's feeling good about it because I check the ace, and he has a king. So this actually is a bad call by me because I have to think about what he would have bet with here on the flop, and he bets with on the flop better than king queen. Mostly every single time he's betting with better than king queen. So definitely a bad call. This actually was the same exact opponent who called me with my sevens. So we know that he's a solid player. All right. Here I raise it up 20 cents with the limper involved, with ace jack and the button. And not really a great flop here, so I'm just going to check it. Nothing really happening. It's probably check, 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 check. There you go. Jack 9. Jack 9 suited. We go three ways. So I have a flush draw here. Was this like third nut flush draw? So I decided to throw out a bet here. So this is what I should have done on the other hand, is throw out a bet with the flush draw, even though I'm in the middle spot of a three-way. So we do get a call. And now I do get the flush draw, which is a wonderful thing. I decided to check it off. And I check, check. Could I have bet the river? I think I probably should have, because if I'm saying on the river, yeah. If I'm saying that's something I got to look at and I got to think about is betting on the river. Okay, so I'm not betting on the river when I think, oh, my opponent won't have worse. But here on the river, I should absolutely bet with the flush because my opponent absolutely will call with worse. He can call with an 8, right? He can call with an ace. So out of position here, it's okay to bet because I feel like I'm going to take it down anyway. He could call me with a worse hand. So in that spot there, I got to say, okay, I got to bet there. That's something I think I'm going to work on. That could be a leak. I'll have to look into it, but I think that could be a leak. Yeah, because I think I probably lost out on value. I probably lost out on value there. Here a 6. I raise it up from the button, and we get a call from the small blind. So there's nothing really happening here. He checks to me. Still really nothing happening here. Check, 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 check. And he has a pair of 8s. Here we have 10s. So 10s, I bump it up 20 cents. We get a call from the big blinds. So we're going three ways. King, king, 5. So a check. This guy bets. I call it, obviously. I mean, I don't have a problem calling this here. Let's see what happens the rest of his hand. So now we got 5s out there, too. He bets into me again. So his bet was so small here, right? 55 cents into $1.16. It's 24% pot odds. Could he be betting to get calls, like value betting on me? Probably. I wasn't ready to fold this one up yet. And a 2 comes out, and I check, and he bets again. His bet was pretty big here. I mean, this is like one of these spots where sometimes I just, obviously I call it here. I don't know what my read was on this opponent. He shoved all in. I mean, let's see what he had. I took it down. I don't know what it was. Well, you know what it was? I know exactly what it was. It was the fact that he bet so small on the flop and the turn, and then he decided to just go for some crazy bluff on the river. And I think it was just because of his bet sizing, plus the fact that it was just so unlikely that he has a king or a 5, right? It's so unlikely that he flopped the full house. that I kept calling, and obviously I got paid off pretty nicely for it. I said to myself too. It's like I got a pair of tens, so I have a bluff catcher if he is bluffing me here, and it just felt like a bluff. Sometimes you just know that feeling. Oh, it feels like a bluff. So here we get a min raise from the cutoff, and of course I call it with my twos, and we just got checking all around, and I of course don't win that one. So that was it. All right, so I know that was actually a lot of hands. There were actually 38 hands that slow showdown. I played a little bit over 500 hands in this session. But this is what I'm going to do for my ACR sessions. Again, Global Poker, I will be posting my actual sessions when I feel like it, but ACR will be a little bit different. So anyway, I hope you liked what you saw. If you did, let me know. Please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up, and yeah, there you go. Thanks again. Poker Dad out.